is going on, Lunatic Fringe? Today we're going to break down what's going on with Kwon and why he might just be, maybe the charges are about to be dropped. Let me break down what's happening so you guys know if that happens. It is my estimation Terra Luna Classic just going to go absolutely parabolic. And at first, you would think that there's just no way that this could happen. But we're going to break down the charges here real quick. And we're going to figure out whether or not there's an opportunity for this to change. And remember, the reason that we're doing this is because the judge in this case has stated unequivocally that they will mind the Genius Act. And at the time of that statement, the Genius Act had not passed. Now, the Genius Act is law. That means things have changed fundamentally and radically about the charges being leveled against Kwon, whether it's worth pursuing or not. Did Kwon deliberately mean to steal from, to manipulate the people who were invested in Terra and Luna? That's the question right now, and let's look at how they're going to potentially answer. So make sure you hit the like button on the way in. Before we get started, TerraCasino.io for all your risk-based gaming needs. Make sure that you sign up there today. Again, we're going to be doing some giveaways. I'm giving away 2 $100 payments to the people who've put their username down below. We're going to do that again going forward. No matter what crypto you're trading in the Luna Classic ecosystem, Terraport.finance is your place to trade. So simple that even a monkey could do it. And why? Because there's a swap button right there. All you have to do, come to the page, click on the swap, attach your wallet, and you are ready to trade. That's all it takes. They've simplified the process. That's where you need to trade. All right, so let's look at what's going on. Number one, U.S. crypto law shift may influence case against Terraform Labs founder. Now, this was done over a month ago on June 25th, or exactly a month ago. And at that time, the Genius Act had not passed, but the judge in this case, Paul Engelmeyer, in the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of New York, said that he would be mindful of the Genius Act, suggesting that it could impact Kwon's charges in securities fraud. So now, let's take a look at what the charges are. Number one, this is an overview, and this is that Kwon said that you were in charge of Luna. But behind the scenes, core Terraform products did not work as Kwon advertised and were manipulated to create the illusion of a functioning and decentralized financial system in order to lure investors. Kwon engaged in this deceptive conduct in order to pump up the value of Terraform cryptocurrency, which Kwon and entities he controlled possessed a large amount of and sold to investors in exchange for billions of dollars worth of assets. Now, the question in that case would be, is it true, or were there any disclaimers saying that these things do not work as advertised? So that is a question that has to be answered. Now, in my estimation, there's not much of a case right here, unless Kwon is saying unequivocally, all of this worked perfectly without interference. I think that this has always been said that it's a work in progress. So, and he even challenged people early on to hack through it and figure out, the problems so that he could fix and solve those problems. So I'm not sure that that is the case. Now, the misrepresentation, number two, this is the second one. The misrepresentation that Kwon, the defendant, made in furtherance of his scheme to defraud includes the stablecoin misrepresentation. Kwon lied about the effectiveness of the system that lay at the heart of Terraform cryptocurrency assets. Now, this is a problem, okay? This is where the big problems come in, and regardless of the Genius Act, we have to look at this as a value of $1 for 1 UST. Beginning in or about 2020, Kwon and his associates advertised the Terra protocol, including the economic incentives it created in the market, as sufficient on its own to maintain parity between 1 UST and 1 US dollar. In particular, Kwon claimed that the Terra protocol on its own had caused the successful restoration of UST's $1 value after it dropped below 92 cents in May of 2021. This was not true. This is where Jump Crypto entered the market. Now, if you're not familiar, Jump Crypto was one of the big holders of the stablecoin that started dumping the Terra stablecoin on the market in May of 2022, but they were brought in May of 2021 in order to buy hundreds of millions of dollars of the UST in order to keep it pegged. He reached an agreement with executives at a high-frequency trading firm, the trading firm, which is Jump Crypto Trading, to have the trading firm purchase large amounts of UST to artificially support the peg. UST's $1 peg was restored in May of 2021, only after the trading firm strategically purchased millions of dollars of UST for the purpose of artificially propping up the peg. Then you have the LFG Luna Foundation Guard misrepresentation. Kwon controlled both the LFG and Terraform at all relevant times following the creation of LFG. So, Luna Foundation Guard job was to protect that stablecoin peg, and he controlled it. So, that actually could be something of a problem. But let's keep going. We're going to try to speed through this. There's a lot of misrepresentation here regarding the stablecoin. Like they're explaining Genesis Coin misrepresentation, enticed in part by the fraudulent claims of Do Kwon. Both institutional and retail investors flocked to the Terra blockchain. In May of 2022, the UST peg began to break again. By this time, the UST market was approximately 9 times larger in terms of market capitalization. All right, so while Kwon was able to cover up the weakness of the Terra protocol in May of 2021, he was not able to do so in May of 2022 when the market had expanded substantially. As a result, the crash happened, resulting in $40 billion worth in investor losses. After the crash, the initiation of government investigations into multiple jurisdictions, Do Kwon, the defendant, sought to continue Terraform business operations and made public misrepresentations about being full cooperation with law enforcement inquiries. In truth, he fled to foreign jurisdictions in which he believed he could purchase political influence and evade legal accountability for his fraudulent conduct by using the substantial resources he had obtained through fraud. Now, is that true or not? And here's the thing, in case you guys forgot what happened. On several days after the collapse and several days after he was working on it and realized that he couldn't do it, he formed the Luna chain. And then before you know, this means that Lunk is a dead chain for him, for his purposes, and it's just going to become publicly available. But Luna was the new one that he started. A man went to his house to kill him, okay, because he had lost everything. That in relation to what was going on. That was why Do Kwon says that he fled, and that was in the South Korean newspapers. Now, was he fleeing prosecution? There's probably, I want to say that there probably is that sort of situation. Here's where it gets interesting, though. In a recorded conversation with an associate on or about August of 2022, Kwon stated in substance and in part that his strategy with law enforcement investigation the crash of UST and Luna was to tell them to fuck off, and that he had been taking steps to obtain a political protection from multiple countries and was pretty comfortable that he would not be extradited to face criminal charges. On or about March 2023, he was arrested in Europe for trying to use a fraudulent passport. All right, now, Terraform, Kwon and the co-founder separated the business operations of Terraform and Chai Co. about March of 2020, becoming the regulatory restrictions that applied to Chai Company due to its status as a licensed electronic payment business. Okay, but they remain shareholders of Terraform and Chai. So then the Terraform business centered on the Terra blockchain, a blockchain distributed electronic database or ledger that is shared amongst the nodes. Terraform constructed the Terra blockchain using popular and publicly available software components, and its basic design resembled that of many other blockchains. So no changes on that. Luna, promoting the private sale of Luna in or about 2018, the defendant, along with others, created and promoted Luna as the Terra blockchain's native token, could be used both to earn financial rewards and to play a role in the government system. And finally, and by the way, this goes on and on and on, but what we're saying here is they're laying out the groundwork for this lawsuit. Now, the question at this point, and by the way, they have all of this laid out on how this was all done. So now the question is, are they right or are they not? And we'll get back to that in just a moment. This is where we get into the problems that Do Kwon has. He sought to cover up his lies and misconduct by other means, causing the distribution of false and misleading third-party audit. Now, what he said was that the audit report was done through LFG and Terraform. An image of social media posted by Kwon promoted the audit report as reproduced below. Okay. Now, Do Kwon, the defendant, sought to cover up his lies and misconduct with the audit report, not only to evade any sort of sanctions for his crime, but also to enable him to solicit funds from investors to launch a new Terra blockchain under false pretense, and this was Luna. The defendant caused the public distribution of the audit report as well as distribution of the audit report to specific business partners. For example, on or about November 14 of 2022, before the audit report was publicly released, Kwon caused the distribution of the audit report to the Swiss bank at which the Terraform Swiss bank account was maintained, along with a message describing the report as the results of an independent third-party audit in the LFG peg defense, showing that all funds were used appropriately in defense of the peg. In fact, the audit report was not conducted independently of Kwon and Terraform as they claim. Among other things, Kwon and his representatives sought to directly dictate certain portions of the report. For example, in 18 October of 2022, the audit firm internal email, a senior employee of the audit firm noted with respect to certain passages in a draft version of the report that one of Kwon's agents had dictated those paragraphs to us. On or about November 16, the day that the audit report was publicly released. And by the way, let's take a moment here and say that, remember, this was all done by Gary Gensler. So if Do Kwon and Terraform reached out and said, you know, when you write this report up, what we would like it to say and the way we would like it to say it is this way, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Because they're trying to translate it for crypto bros, if you will. So I don't know exactly what this is, but the day that the audit report was publicly released, the defendant tweeted that it shows that all LFG funds were spent to defend UST peg parity for the dollar as declared, and that we fought to the last to protect the UST and its users. In truth, all LFG funds were not spent to defend the peg. Rather, over $300 million in misappropriated funds remain in the commingled account after the crash of UST and Luna and were not used to defend the peg, nor were these funds returned to the LFG. Rather, Kwon directed after the fact that Terraform internally account for the misappropriated funds as belonging to Terraform as reimbursement for Terraform's own spending in defense of the peg, and transfer those funds to Terraform wallets in an effort to generate some loose math supporting this fraudulent post ad hoc accounting. Terraform scheduled a period of time in the past during which Terraform spent approximately $1 billion in assets defending the peg, and attributed all Terraform trading during that time period to the LFG. That period of time was selected to result in an amount approximating the LFG reserve final transfer. So the question is, did they do that? And remember, the way that the jump crypto trading, the way that the trading firm was able to do this was this 28,000 Bitcoin. This was where it all started right here. Misleadingly omitted that Do Kwon, the defendant, transferred 28,000 Bitcoin from the LFG to Terraform without approval from the LFG governing council, in violation of his promises to investors about the independence. So this is the money that is in question right here. So as you go, and by the way, these are the evidence is all presented in this case. So now, the question at this point is, was Do Kwon basically stealing the money, or was he trying to run his project back to wherever it was, doing what he thought was the best thing? And then how does that run afoul of the law? So here's what I think is going to happen, just for clarity. I think that we're at a situation in which the Trump administration is going to look over this one more time, and they're going to refine this. There are currently 8 charges pending against Do Kwon, including securities fraud, commodities fraud, manipulation. There's a bunch of different cases. I think they're going to refine what it is that they're suing Do Kwon for, and I think you're going to find a much lesser offense as this. Now, that means to me that Do Kwon is going to end up walking, okay? And not only that, but he'll be able to work in the United States for crypto, with this being said, okay? Because what we will agree upon in the United States is that this was a matter of errors and omissions of a tightened sort of ecosystem that the United States was animus towards, and that they had to do things that maybe doesn't jive with the American rules and regulations because of the constrictions placed upon them by the courts and by the SEC and by Gary Gensler and his angry administration of intimidation through enforcement. So there is a real possibility here that Do Kwon is about to walk on this. It doesn't mean that he's going to walk in South Korea, by the way, but it does mean that in the United States that he probably faces a lesser charge, maybe a fine or a penalty, and then that is the end of it. So guys, I think you should be real excited, because I think that we're going to see a massive move by Terra Luna Classic coming up very, very soon. Remember, this Do Kwon case is going to take place soon enough. In fact, I believe that they've redone it back to January of 2026. In an article about 6 months ago, that's what they were pushing for, was to the last date was January of 2026. And if you remember, about a month ago, they asked for another stay so that they had more time to prepare. Again, the Genius Act is now passed, so laws have changed. So I think we're going to see something crazy happen here. But let's continue to move on here. Guys, I want you to know that I think Kwon is about to send Terra Luna Classic into a parabolic run. I think he's going to get off with a lot. All right, folks, another thing is burn the synthetic tokens. This is another protocol that somebody's got as an idea for what's going to happen. And then there's a burn-to-burn future redemption program from Michael SC. Now, I asked a very simple question here, and I'm waiting for an answer for that because it doesn't make any sense to me. Someone already asked some questions, but I went in and threw in, how do you intend to pay for the reward? At this point, you're basically offering to give people the liquidity from other people's investment at an elevated clip based upon them burning the coins. Now, if you reach a spot here where, let's say you're trading at 301 and it goes up to 307 and you burned 1,000, what is it, 10 million tokens, something like that, it'd be 10 million tokens at 301, and then for some reason you're going to get $7,000 when it goes to 307. That's nonsense. That's insanity. Like, where does that money come from? For burning the tokens, you're rewarded for giving away your tokens by getting multitudes more. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and I don't think this person understands how money flows. So that's what I think we're dealing with, and I want him to answer that question, but I don't think that there's really a path forward for this process. It sounds cute, sounds like a great idea, but that money has to come from somewhere, and we have nowhere for that money to come from. So it has to come from you, the investor. It doesn't make any sense. So I think that's pretty dead. Otherwise, there's nothing else going on. Also, SDK upgrade 50.13 has been submitted for Lunkverse. So far, we've got a bunch of we've got no no's, no abstains, nothing like that. Lunkverse, I guess, would be the only one. And it's early on, by the way. This was just launched a few hours ago, so you should, I would think, see just a bunch of cascade of people voting yes on it, and that goes through. So we'll be upgraded to the latest SDK. Volume is up 31% on the day to 19 million, while UST is down. Takes a moment for that to load, apparently, to 18 million. So all is right with the world. Luna Classic is now moving ahead of USTC one more time. This right here was important. I don't know how accurate it is, but the bids and the asks show a bear trap. That means a short squeeze. So it looks like the ask kind of ranges out to 78.50. That's about about 25% from where we are right now. So what I tell you before, that we were expecting to see a surge when we look at the charts over here, we got that big move over here, but we didn't get the continuation. We got a breakdown off of it. And, you know, I guess we're going to say that we got our low pivot right here. We got our high pivot right here. We broke down to the 786. Now that looks like there's going to be a reversal coming. For clarification about what I'm doing right here, let's remove the volume profile right there. Basically what I did is I took the low pivot right here, the high pivot up here, and I just put a Fibonacci onto it to give you an idea of where it's going to go. Now, we came back down into this range. We bounced off of, ironically, remember the high level over here. We bounced off of that. Now we're headed back up. So the question is, where do we go from here? And if this is any accounting for it, and by the way, the funny thing, if we look at the impulse move, remember I gave you 78.50, right? Well, if we look at the impulse move right here, and then we look at the bounce from there right into this range right here, where does that put us? It doesn't put us at exactly 78.50, but it puts us close enough that I could say, hey, you know, maybe I got this right, and maybe the pivot was actually down here just a little bit. Let's move that out of the way. And maybe my little pivot area was actually down here a little bit lower, so that when we come up here and we do that, then all of a sudden it gets a lot closer to where we're looking. So I do think that we're right, that that is the next move, 78.50, which would make perfect sense as we kind of zoom out, because there it is right there, this range of volume. Now that we're back out here, we're on the 4 hour. We're gonna look at our volume profile and look where all the volume is, 78, not exactly 78.50, but you get my point. It's very, very close, close enough for a surge at 78.50. So I do think that we've got some upside momentum. All the things are checking out right now for this move to this location. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking that's not enough. We need more action. I'm sorry. I don't have more action. It's not made out of magic. It's made out of new investors and people buying more Terra Luna Classic. But like a magnet, this is where people are going to be attracted to. Now, I also want to say, moving up here on the volume profile, see that volume range right there? That means there's another gigantic volume right there. And why is that gigantic volume right there? Well, when I drop this, then guess what? Right there, that's at 9. So I think we've got a couple of surges coming over the next little while. Now, in the meantime, we're going to remove that right there, make this a little bit easier to look at. Sorry about that. But it would occur to me that we've got a couple of moves in the pipe. Again, once we get this, the breakdown would be right here. This is the successful defense. If you're going to enter a position, specifically if you're going to do a futures position, after you get that run to 78.50, your entry point is going to be at the top of this range right here at 407. So you get in right there, and you probably experience this little run right here. So that's what I would say is the next opportunity to get into an entry position. Also, remember this little area right here that we're at right now, we bounced down into that. If you bought that dip right there, congratulations and shout out to you. Remember, we got a golden cross right there, and we got this gigantic surge right now. When I say gigantic and you say, but not gigantic, it's not gigantic, then I say, well, that's 20%, so shut up. Now, let's move it out to the 1 day, because that's where it gets important. The 1 day is the one that we're looking at for, we want to see a breakout above on this one. And guess what? We're getting there right now. So we get there right now. Over the next couple of days, what you're going to see is that's going to keep going. This is going to bounce right here. So, the beginning of August, you're going to see that surge. Okay. Now, what if I get 20% off of that? Well, 20% off of that, not going to be that much, but it will probably take us to 20% is, is 28% 78.50. Do you see how this is all adding up? Guys, the next step, 78.50. And then from there, again, we're going to continue to see surges. But the next big move, the next big impulse move is coming. Is it going to be life-changing? I don't know. That takes a while to figure out. Let's talk about burns real quick. Didn't have a lot of burns, but we got 241 million over the last. Again, we need about 10 times that much in burns. I don't want to put too much time on it, but again, bids ask. Once you've got the process laid out and you know where the money is laying, then you know that that you've got something going on. Now, what does this mean? Well, what this means right now is there are no sellers up here, which means that once we get to this area at 78.55, we get to that area, guess what? It's smooth sailing probably up until that 9 area. So maybe, just maybe, we get a massive surge. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think Kwon is going to get away? Do you think we're going to have that opportunity? Or do you think that we are? I don't know. But I certainly believe that we are about to get a magnificent sort of surge. The markets are starting to look very bullish. The fact that Terra Luna Classic is starting to give some semblance of breakout during the market. By the way, the market is down a tiny bit today, but the surge that we got was significant over the last few days. So now the question is, do we get that next leg up? And I want to say that based on the charts, without showing it all to you, that we are consolidating right now for another leg up. Bitcoin looks like it's put itself. Matter of fact, let me just show you guys here. We didn't break down from this, and we didn't double test the top of the range. So I think we're going to head up a little bit more. And then we'll see if we get caught right here at about 112, and then we get a strong bounce and another surge. But global liquidity is continuing to surge, and it's going even higher. So, guys, it is only a matter of time. See that big spike right there? That big spike right there ends up right there. We got another big spike coming right here, where we got Bitcoin probably going up a little bit more today or tomorrow, like right now. Then we'll see that dip. Then that's when we see that dip right there. That's when that breaks down. Then we see just a massive surge. So guys, we're in the bull run. It's here. The only question now is, do you want to get rich? Because if you do, you're in the right business. If you don't, you got a couple days left. But the bull run's going to start with or without you. It's not financial advice, but I'm always right.